Bitcoin crypto market, absolute washout, scaring the bejesus out of everybody. Is this an incredible buying opportunity or the price is going to crash further? Bitcoin down to $91,000. Bitcoin strong crypto rebound back to the upside. And now what we see with the altcoins, also major washouts to the downside. And now where are we at? We're seeing a lot of rebounds. So is this a pump? Is this a trap? What do we need to do? Let's get into it. Let's dive directly into the charts. We got Kevin Svensson. He's supposed to be here. He should be showing up in a second. But Matthew Hyland also in the wings. So let's get into it. Crypto market scaring the life out of everybody out there. What are we doing? What is going on? When we dive into the charts, we see some absolute freaking debauchery going on with this massive washout. And it just turns out it came right into the zone that we've had highlighted here for feels like a couple months now, just sitting right in this zone and bouncing back up. Does this mean we're going to just rocket up from here? We've got to be very careful. We're going to be diving into this with Matthew Hyland and Kevin here in a little bit, but we're seeing this just currently, it's just currently maybe only a dead cat bounce, or is there more to it? Because we're also seeing things, check this out, last week, I drew this on the chart. I did not add this today. We talked about a potential, this falling wedge likely breaking out, but potentially becoming a trap and then coming down, washing out liquidity, then coming back up. This is almost exactly what is happening currently. Will we get that bounce to the upside? Well, let's go over a couple things before we dive into the charts with the homies. And that is right here. We actually saw a little bit of a resurgence in the market when we saw this sort of pump the markets. Donald Trump's crypto czar and AI czar, David Sachs, reportedly to hold a press conference tomorrow to discuss how to secure America as a leader in the digital asset ecosystem. Awesome. Gave a little hope to the markets. We also saw a little capitulation with what we saw with Mexico and a delay on their tariffs. But what is going on? Because everybody's so worried. And then you remind yourself, 2017 saw this over and over and over and over with much bigger drops. So this is, in my opinion, just par for the course before we make our next leg up. The question is, what are we doing about it in this moment right now before the market absolutely either bombs or absolutely melts to the upside? This is going to determine what we're going to be doing in this market. Now, considering where we're at, Q4 into Q1, as we're seeing where we're at right now, we've seen this happen in previous cycles. This is like, oh my God, the same thing's happening again. Yet people are so worried. The question is, what are we going to do about it? We're going to be diving into these charts here in just a couple minutes, but I just wanted to give some context here. We also see Bitcoin has had a rough weekend. Yeah, it sure did, right? Especially if you're on the wrong side of a trade and leverage. But historically, periods of strong selling have paved the way for great trading opportunities. Are we seeing this yet again with this, see this mass selling pressure? Boom, ended up being a bounce. Mass selling pressure here twice, ended up being a bounce. And we've seen this sort of rinse and repeat over and over. And in fact, we saw quite a bit of resetting of some of the very important data metrics out there. Where is it at? Not this is from AIXBT. Massive liquidations, likely between $8 to $10 billion. But when we come back over here, let me go to bookmarks here. I saw this right here. I mean, look at how big this liquidations, these long liquidations. You see how large this green bar is here? Overwhelmingly eclipses any one that we've seen previously. Is this the reset we need before the market truly starts to make that leg up? Because we did also see a flip in the Coinbase premium, aka when there's a ton of buying or a ton of selling, as opposed to other exchanges that are geo-focused in other parts of the world. When you get this negative premium, that means it tends to be a lot of selling. When we're seeing this very positive premium flip right here, buying has come back in. So with that being said, we got our boys in the wings. So let me go ahead and bring them up. I got to set their roles real quick. Guess two right there. We got the homies. We got the charts. Let's get into it. Everybody, how you feeling? Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Ding the bell. I actually have to go and I'll do this as I bring them up. We got our boys here. Where is Matthew? Did he drop off? No, I just don't have him set. Boom. We got everybody here. How you doing? Is this the end of the world? What is going on?
What's going on, Kelly? Is
What's
Kevin
up,
there?
man?
Because I can't see him.
I think.
Yeah,
I'm
hold
not
on
sure
one
if my
second. I
camera's
got
up.
to
I see my chart.
switch This is should be Kevin 2. Are you not?
Unless my
There we go.
face just turned into a chart, which seems plausible.
There we go. No, I just had the wrong roll set. So let me go ahead and mute my screen. Let's look at you guys' charts. But what's y'all's first impression of everything that's gone on? Do you think this may be some sort of cycle top, and we're also worried about, or like, what's your general impression about what's going on here?
So, in my opinion, this was obviously another capitulation event, which we've seen many of. This was almost 6 months to the day of the August one. I think the August one was on August 4th, approximately. So, this is another capitulation event that we've seen, and obviously, like you said with AXBT, it was approximately 8 to 10 billion, which is larger than FTX, larger than 2020. It was just massive, right? This was just massive capitulation. People gave up. There was a lot of people that gave up, especially on the altcoins. If you look back at the capitulation back in August, Bitcoin dominance didn't really rise too much then. But on the chart this week, it completely wicked up and then came back down. If you go to the chart I had sent you, there's
I'm pulling it up. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, or if you go to the Bitcoin dominance chart, whoever's screen that is, there's that was a massive wick up to approximately 64.5%, but it has given it all back up. So when I'm looking at that, I'm thinking a lot of people essentially gave up on alts. Like, this was the give up moment. This was in my opinion, sentimental bottom. Like, people finally reached their breaking point, because in August, when we saw the sell off for alts, people didn't pile into Bitcoin, obviously. But this time we saw a lot of people sell their alts, pile into Bitcoin. The dominance shot up and then has since pulled back. So it's very, very early, right? There's no way to say that was the top. It's actually back below the high from a few back in November, essentially. So it could be some sort of blow off top, but we don't know that, right? There's no way to confirm that. But if you look at the weekly RSI on Bitcoin dominance, essentially, it's well below the high from back in November, while the price made a higher high with the weekly close last week. And now this candle is continuing upward, or continued upward. So that could end up becoming bearish divergence. The way for that not to happen would be for the RSI to make a higher high, but there's a lot of room between that. I think on the chart, the RSI is currently sitting around 64%, while the high from back in November was around 74%. So there's a lot of space. So if we get any sort of red weekly candle before that happens, and that would potentially create bearish divergence on the Bitcoin dominance chart for like the first time in a very long time. I don't know when the last time it actually took place. I'd have to look. So that's what I think happened. This was a huge moment for people just giving up on altcoins, reaching their breaking point, saying, you know what, I just want to be in Bitcoin. And it went up and then it went back down. So smart money. And if you look, actually, if you go to the XRP chart, I'm not sure why you guys can load up TradingView on Coinbase, or the XRP Coinbase chart. If you can load that up, go to like the 15-minute time frame approximately.
I'm pulling it up. Hold on 1 sec.
Yep.
So if you go to
if you go to yesterday, see that large wick? Zoom in a little bit during that capitulation. There was a huge wick, right? Yep, right there. It went all the way up to approximately $2.70. But if you go on Binance,
55% wick.
No. But hear me out. If you go to Binance, there's no wick, right? It was only at $2.15. So there you go. There's no wick there. But if you go to Coinbase, there's a huge wick. So that essentially means that there was people ready to buy. Someone market bought XRP and pushed the price up almost 30% or 25% approximately. That requires literally the market cap of XRP is what, over 100 billion. So that literally probably required over $1 billion of capital on a market buy order. So there was money, smart money, sitting there waiting to buy while retail was giving up and selling everything. There was massive amounts of money entering this space. Smart money, right? I don't think a billionaire or someone market buying $1 billion is someone, some retail participant, right? There's no way that I don't think it was just a bunch of people market buying at the same time, because I think we would have seen it across all exchanges, right? So a large entity came along and bought a massive amount of XRP essentially. And I think that will probably look similar if you go through charts for other coins. I'm sure there was discrepancies amongst other ones. So yeah, I think this was a big moment. And the other interesting thing is, if you go back to last year,
Like Link also had that big spike on Coinbase, but not on Binance.
Yeah, I would look at I didn't really dive too much into it. I really only saw, or I looked at with the XRP chart. Someone in my Patreon actually pointed it out. But if you go back to last year, after the Bitcoin ETF launched, Bitcoin bottomed 12 days after. So despite the Bitcoin ETF being super bullish news, now that Wall Street can now enter and buy, Bitcoin went down, right? Retail was selling their Bitcoin to the ETF buyers because at that point the ETF, the ETF, there was no people holding the ETF because it just launched literally. So there wasn't like people holding the ETF. It wasn't people dumping the ETF because people hadn't bought the ETF yet. So it was retail selling to the ETF buyers, and it lasted for 12 days. And interestingly enough, since Gensler got tossed on January 20th, yesterday was 12 days. So once again, despite the SEC changes being a bullish catalyst, we saw retail once again sell off into it, while we have examples of large money coming in and buying up the coins and stuff. So it was definitely an interesting night. A lot of candles are back in the green. So despite that, we had the huge wick down, huge recovery back up. So definitely an interesting moment for crypto last night.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. What are you seeing, Kev?
Like Stewie and a few others, I was just going through other Coinbase charts, also had that on the Coinbase. Oh wait, sorry. Let me go to.
So you had American buyers then, and this wasn't any sort of short squeeze.
That wick right there.
Yeah, and this wasn't any sort of, and this wasn't like a short squeeze because you can't short on Coinbase. So it wasn't short squeeze. It wasn't a leverage. There's no leverage on Coinbase. This was a market buy for all these, maybe American coins, maybe like Kevin had said, or just coins in general. I'd have to go through all the charts, but there was definitely smart money buying, like scooping this up while retail was just running for the door.
It's interesting because the XRP market buy wick happened 2 or 3 15-minute periods earlier than some of the other ones. So that means that there was somebody with a lot of money just sitting there, literally just market buying a bunch of coins within a very short period of time.
Yeah,
and that would have required like XRP's market cap is currently 150 billion. So to move the price up 25%, that has to be like a $500 billion order, you would think.
But even beyond that, right before we went live, we saw this from AIXBT. World Liberty Finance also bought 86,000 Ethereum in the last 7 hours, $421 million worth of ETH. It's a pretty big sort of line in the sand.
Wait! 86,000 Ethereum in the past 24 hours?
Past 7 hours.
Yeah, it's a massive buy.
That's actually pretty crazy. Sorry,
that's a big buy.
I should have made this disclaimer earlier. I've been really sick the past couple of days. Like I was in bed for like a day straight or more, so my mind is a bit jumbled. Just making that disclaimer.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So what else are you looking at, Kev?
Wait, why did their holdings? Oh, wait, their holdings in U.S. dollars went down, of course. Wait, so they now have 78,000 Ethereum, World Liberty Financial, and they added, how much was it?
It says World Liberty Finance accumulated 86,000 ETH in the past 7 hours.
That's like an insane amount. They were only buying like 10 or 20 million at a time. That's a huge buy. Like that's not
86,000. Wait, hold on. 86,000 Ethereum?
Yeah.
Like, wait, that means they've doubled their holdings in terms of Ethereum?
So I wonder if this is a typo. I wonder if they accumulated and they got to 86,000, because it says here the total holdings now 421 million. But that would be massive. Let's look.
I mean, maybe they did. It hasn't updated on this website yet. They might have.
Yeah.
Wait, 65% allocation. Well, no. If they doubled their Ethereum holding, it would have put the allocation far higher than that.
Well, I guess because yesterday it shows here World Liberty casually holds 206 worth of Ethereum, and now with this that new tweet from they hold 421, so that would be a double.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, because in ETH, I mean, it's not like, I mean, ETH
Wait,
dropped to $2,100.
go back to the chart or the page that had their holdings, World Liberty Finance, if you can. The one that Kevin had pulled up, I believe, maybe.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's been updated.
But is it the total amount of their entire wallet, or yeah, it probably hasn't been updated yet. Huh.
Yeah. So what do you make
It
at this
bet
stage in the cycle with this big shakeout? Is this going to prove to be a big shakeout that might act as a spring, or do we need to, because this seems like there's a lot of ping ponging back and forth with all the trade war stuff that's shaking out risk in the market, but then it's kind of good news and it comes back. Like, are we in for 2 or 3 weeks of maybe even longer throughout all of February into March with just choppiness, or could this be a potential spring that we actually rebound on pretty strongly?
Well, I mean, for Bitcoin, Bitcoin overall is doing fine, right? Bitcoin's price is currently in the middle of the range. Basically, nothing's changed since November of 2024, right? It just hit the support again. Nothing has actually changed. For the altcoins, very different story. The total 3 did a full retrace all the way back. The others chart is just sitting in hell, just like below the March 2024 zone. And I think that, well, the recent dip in tech started off with DeepSeek, and then it got like finalized with Trump tariffs or something. It was just kind of just this multifaceted dump or whatever you want to call it. But hold on, sorry, my brain is really jumbled right now. Again, I've been sick the past 2 days and I can't even think straight.
That's how I feel all the time.
Wait. So I was going to say that the Fed is very restrictive right now, and in the last cycle, the Fed was very unrestrictive at the beginning. It was zero rates. They changed the banks didn't have to have any reserves, right? And during COVID, they made it zero reserves. And yeah, no zero rates, zero reserves, infinite money printing. That's how we started off the last cycle. In this cycle, we're starting it off in the exact opposite fashion, right? We're starting it off with very restrictive, Fed. We have interest rates at the highest level since 2007, right? Interest rates haven't been this high since before Bitcoin even existed. So we're starting off this cycle very restrictive, and I think we're going to end on a looser, lighter note from the Fed. So in the last cycle, we had an instant boom in the market. It was really easy, even though we were all locked inside, our houses, and the markets were just going straight up. Really weird time, right? But now it's the exact opposite. Even though Bitcoin's doing well, a lot of the high risk assets are not doing well. But I think that it'll change towards the end of this year. Like slowly, the Fed will loosen up over time, and I think it's gonna be like literally the exact opposite of last cycle. Because in the last cycle, it was like 2022 or 2021 November. It was basically near the top, 69,000, like near that top. The Fed started basically saying that they were, planning to. They were sort of
Quantitative
discussing
tightening.
their plans, huh?
Quantitative tightening.
Yeah,
And rate
and so
cuts too, or rate hikes.
now
Yeah.
it's just going to be the opposite. So I think we're going to end high risk assets will do well at the end rather than the beginning of the cycle.
So do you think that something like this still has a chance to play out, just maybe a little bit more delayed?
I think it'll be very delayed. Yeah. Another thing is in the last cycle, Uniswap was brand new, Dexes were brand new, and so low caps did really well back here before the Bitcoin bull started. Did really well, zero rates, blah 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 blah. Right now, it's just everything's different. I think it was Stanley Druckenmiller mentioned how everything that sort of drove the markets up over the past like 20 years or more is currently being reversed. And so I think ultimately what we're going to get is a more choppy environment in stocks and in crypto. Things will just be a little choppier, right? It's not the era of up only anymore, where it's not like straight line up, right? Because that's what it was for quite a long time. And I don't think we're going to have straight line up until 2030, maybe, once all of this stuff settles. Once we have there's a lot of conflict in the world, a lot of changes taking place, a lot of new innovations because of that. But I think that we're going to have a somewhat choppy. It doesn't mean you can't see growth. It just means that the market's going to be somewhat choppier, most likely until like getting closer to 2030, where you're going to have, major bull runs, huge bear markets, major downtrends, but a lot of sideways price action into 2030, I think. But again, that doesn't mean that the market's just going to be sideways. I'm talking about the stock market indexes, like the S&P. Right? Bitcoin can still see growth. Altcoins can still see growth. AI will go through a humongous boom while the S&P is going sideways over the next many years. That's kind of more what I'm getting at, right? Individual sectors can do well, but I think the major market indices will be very choppy for quite a while.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that. It's just an interesting environment, because with what's going on with the new administration, you can call it good, you can call it bad, but there's, I think, a lot of just shakeups that make it hard to look at like a historical trend and say this is going to mimic that, because we're also having not even necessarily a trade war, but confusion about what's going to happen with income tax. Is that going to be nixed? Is it going to be all tariffs? Is it going like everything is so bizarre right now to forecast where things are going. But I still think that, and all this also within crypto is going to be very tied to what their decision is going to be regarding stockpiles and strategic Bitcoin reserve, what the timeline is on these things, and then all the, the state Bitcoin reserves as well. So it's definitely very interesting to try and forecast what's going on.
Yeah,
It's hard to point to specific things too, because like last year, for example, we had higher rates, we had quantitative tightening, Bitcoin dominance was still going up, but most of the alts were doing really, really well, right? It wasn't really, in my opinion, right? And I've been thinking about this, and I don't really truthfully know what happened with the market dynamics, but most stuff was going up November, December, January, February, uh, and then March of last year. And then from there, Bitcoin kind of decoupled essentially from most of the altcoin market. Like Bitcoin has been acting differently since then. And really the thing that kind of changed around that time was a lot of the meme coin stuff took over. And I think it did take a lot of attention away from the coins that were going up. Pretty much everything was going up. If you went across the board, every chart was going up. Cardano, AVAX, the Doge, everything was going up. So despite like the conditions not being perfect, not having QE, not having the rates were higher at that time, everything was still going up. But the dynamics of the crypto market participants kind of changed at that time. People started to hear the stories of people making money, millions overnight. And a lot of people began chasing the memes. It really started in February. That's when WIF, I think, took off. And that was like the first big meme coin on Solana. And then from there, it just continued and continued. So I think, in a way, some of the dynamics of the holders of crypto, had changed at that point. And a lot of people, rather than chasing or holding onto their coins or holding onto their traditional coins, were like, you know what, I want to get rich overnight. I want to buy the memes. And essentially the memes for the past year did better. But now a lot of the Solana memes, especially, have gone through a major capitulation. If you go back to that, the WIF chart that you just had pulled up, I believe it went down over 80, I think, over 80%, I believe, almost 80%. Some of the other ones on Solana went down 90%, I think Popcat. So a lot of the memes on Solana went through full-blown capitulation bear markets here. And maybe in a way, that's what the market has needed, right? Maybe we needed the reckoning for the memes on Solana to go through this. And now people might, maybe with the extreme dilution of all the tokens, might look toward more what they were looking at essentially prior to the memes craze starting, which was pretty much most of the coins that, the coins that everyone knows about, that were all pretty much doing well, moving up together with Bitcoin. And then it all changed, right? So I do think that could be something to look at. And to go back to what Kevin said, it is interesting because back in 2017, there was no QE that whole year. It was essentially flat, right? If you load up the Fed's balance sheet, it was essentially flat that whole year. So despite not having QE, the market did go up, but it was more toward the end, like he said. And I think at that point, I'd have to look at what happened in 2018. I believe they started QT afterwards. Yeah, we go back there. So if you go back to 2017, a little further back, it was essentially going down. It was flat, but it was going down, but then it didn't really start to go down extremely until 2018. So I would say if we get even the Fed saying that they're just going to finally end QT, I think that would definitely help the markets, but I'm not sure when that would come. I'm not sure we need QE per se. I'm sure QE would definitely help the markets, but we didn't need QE last year when everything was going up. And even for the risk assets in the stock market, a lot of the risk assets in the stock market are actually doing pretty well. A lot of them are actually going up. So this is almost just specifically to altcoins, right? So I do think that it is, there's always different reasons and things for why the markets are doing what they're doing. But to like pin it on a specific one is hard, just because we have examples of last year or in 2017 where there was no QE and the market still went up rapidly. So I would say it is possible. Maybe it does need that, but it's also possible the market could just decide, and maybe the dynamics perhaps have come back here essentially after going through this kind of weird year for the past year where it was just basically memes and people chasing complete vaporware. And obviously there's a case people will say a lot of the cryptos are essentially vaporware anyway. So, but a lot of the meme stuff, the millions and millions of tokens being created every day, the dilution, I just don't see, in my opinion, how that, at least for that ecosystem, not Solana really specifically. I think Solana will still benefit from it, but I think the Trump token, all those other different memes just constantly being created, constantly new coins coming out. I just don't see how that ends well, because it's essentially just a lot of people going from one coin to the next, to the next, to the next. So there's going to be a lot of people that will be holding coins that are never going to recover. Some of those memes, right? Maybe not like the top ones. Maybe we do see coins like WIF or PopCat or whatever make a recovery at some point, but there's hundreds and thousands of coins that people have bought that are just not going anywhere. And most people are losing in the meme sector, right? The people that are chasing these memes, most people, and they probably won't admit it, or some people will. I've seen plenty of stories, but most people, I'd say it's probably 95% are just not making money. They're pretty much losing money or losing it all. A lot of these memes end up just going to zero. So it's very brutal. I just think how much can retail continue to go through this? And maybe this was finally it, right? With the memes capitulating, maybe this was finally the moment where people finally were like, you know what? I'm done with this. I've given up. A lot of people sold their memes clearly based on the charts. And now maybe it comes back to where it was a year ago before it all started.
Yeah, even this chart here, this is specifically Bitcoin, but on the retail investors, showing the complete retail basically getting flushed out here, no interest at all. And at these points in time is very often when we get these sort of reversals in trend, whether it's a small bounce in a bear market or a major reversal like we saw back here in May or what was this? Whenever this reversal was in 2021, boom, back up to the top. But definitely interesting where we're at right now, because I think we're all very hopeful, but even as tried and true as you can be in this market, it doesn't mean you still don't have those emotions where you're like, fuck, man, is this time different? But I'm still stacking. I'm looking at this as an opportunity, but we just may need to be more patient than we expect, because it's such a bullish framework for what we're seeing in 2025. It makes it more ripe to really get people chopped out of the market, because everybody goes leverage long because you see the bullishness. You're like, it must go up. And it's like, okay, let me take your lunch money. And then after people are, basically chopped out, then the market moves.
I think the fact that so many people are questioning whether this is ever going to happen or not is probably not, I'm not going to say it's a good sign. Maybe they are right. But it's also like, we kind of, it's kind of like a reset, right? A lot of people have given up. And I think it's kind of necessary. If things were obvious, if everyone felt like everything was just going to go straight up, that's usually not, that's closer to a top, right? When you see those signs, when everyone just expects it. Like a lot of people, including myself, right? I had outlined it months ago. I thought, based on history, quarter one would be good, and maybe it ends up being good, right? There have been prior years where January was horrible. I think even last year we started off in the red, basically with the ETF, everything dumped, and then we still end up closing with February and March good. But I think that this kind of caught a lot of people off guard. A lot of people probably did think that quarter one was just going to be straight up, and like I said, maybe it still closes in the green, but nothing should be obvious, right? So the market was throwing a curveball, and from here we'll see what happens. But I think things like this, unfortunately, are just necessary for markets. It's not supposed to be easy.
So this just popped up too as well. It's happening now. President Trump signs an executive order calling for the creation of a sovereign wealth fund. So that's interesting. What do you make of that?
Wait, what is that exactly?
I don't know what
sovereign
it is.
wealth fund?
I don't know.
What is
Yeah.
I'm like, wait,
you
is that crypto?
You don't even know when you're asking us. I'm like, bro, I don't know what that is.
Also, I was going to say this earlier. I wanted to say it, and I feel like now people would be more willing to hear me when I say this. I feel like for a while people would get angry, but aren't almost all, other than like Dogecoin or something, like all these memes are guaranteed failures in the end? Like just about all of them, like 95% or more.
No. It would be like 99.999 because there's literally millions. I would say there's going to be.
Yeah.
There's no way to say, but I think there's going to be ones that communities consolidate around. But I would say that like 99.999% of them are going to fail because there's literally millions of them, right? Actually, like hundreds of millions.
It's like in this cycle, you might have some of these memes with those huge moves that they had. Then they come down. And then in the next cycle, they might have a slight pump, but a lower high. And even though that would be considered good, if a coin lasted that long, that it was still there in the next cycle and had a slightly lower high pump. But my thought is these memes are all guaranteed to fail. That's almost the point. It's a game of musical chairs. You're just getting into the thing that's going to pump, and then you're going to sell to get rich, right? That's the idea. It's a guaranteed failure, though, for that reason. Like with stuff like, Apple stock or something, right? There's a reason why the price is going up. It just endlessly going up. It's because people are endlessly buying new iPhones, right? All the time. And, there's a lot of companies like that. People are always signing up for Netflix or whatever, But these meme coins are guaranteed failures, in my opinion. And then it's kind of a party pooper thing to say. And honestly, like right now, a lot of the meme coins are probably a good buy because they're so far down. But in my mind, I've never been a big meme coin person because that's just how I've always thought of it. Of like it's just guaranteed failure in the end.
I would
Doesn't
say
mean you can't make money though.
Yeah, I would say the ones that recover, like let's say whichever ones recover off of this and go back to their highs, those show signs of whatever community. There's underlying buyers, but like you said, I think like 99.9, like Peanut, for example, is there really? I'm not in like the depths of these memes, essentially, especially the Solana ones, but I don't know if there's like a huge group of people that are buying these coins, or they're just like most of these people are disloyal to them. Like there's a few communities or a few memes that people are actually loyal to, but most of them they'll go and sell it and chase the next one, and that's essentially what has happened to most of them.
I think people are going to start getting tired of that too, because the way that it goes with these memes is basically what you just said. Like people are just like scrambling and searching for the next meme, and then they buy it, and then it goes up or down, and they sell, and they jump into the next one, and it's just like this very panicky process of Where's the next one? What's the next one? In, out.
And
Oh wait, this one, yes, like it's all just chaos. I
and
think
that
at
actually
some point people will get tired of it. At some point,
and that actually brings me to like another point. I think one of the dynamics, like I was mentioning before, the meme stuff kind of changed, but I think like the dynamics of crypto holders kind of changed, where people have become like more. People are chasing more than in the past. I don't remember like I remember a lot of people saying hodl, like hodl your coin, whatever. In past cycles, hold on and just hold your position. But now people are kind of like in this mindset where they're constantly chasing. So that's leading to constant selling pressure for pretty much all alts, right? Like everything is constantly like people, and I maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure you could look on chain to find out whether this is true or not. But I think there's just like a dynamic change where people are just not holding their coins because, and one of the biggest reasons is they're not comfortable, right? They're not confident enough to hold it for more than like a few weeks, right? Just because if it doesn't produce results, they see something else producing results and now they change. So I think this whole, I really think something changed a year ago around this time, around February, because that's everything was going up. Like most of the top alts, all the top alts in the top 100, all the big names, everything was going up together with Bitcoin. Everything was fine. And then whiff happened and, more memes started to pile on and then it just completely spiraled. And then it drew all the attention. And then essentially since then, everything has just been kind of suffering since. But now maybe just maybe, right? Now that we've seen these memes completely get wiped out, have broken significant structure like WIF breaking below the August low, maybe it will recover. I actually would say that one probably has a better chance than most of them because it's much larger. There's a lot of holders of it. It has a more loyal community, but most of them, 99.9%, which because there's billions of memes now. I think there's like 20 million created every day or something like that. So there's
what?
Yeah, it's
That's
it's
just like it's probably just auto created with like bots.
Yeah, there's literally bots auto creating. So like 99.9% of them are going to go to zero. There's no possible way, right? There's going to probably be like 5 or 10 or a dozen or so that will end up that have the stronger communities that end up holding up. But like most people, but the thing is, here's the thing too: the ones that are larger that have the stronger communities aren't attractive also to most people because most of the gains have already been made for those ones. So people like I just like don't get the mind. Like I get the mindset because it's like hope. Like it gives people hope. Like I can put $500 into some meme and I can make $1 million overnight because there are stories of that. There's been probably a few
But
dozen
I
stories.
still think that there's going to be a rotation back into utility. I think there's going to be
That's what I'm saying.
That's kind of what we're talking. Kind of, I guess we were getting at it, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think how much burnout can you get? Like how beat up can you get? Most of these coins, people are losing everything they put in them. Like how long can this go on, right? But maybe like the charts are showing like they capitulate, right? These memes capitulate. So maybe this is finally it. Maybe I don't know. Like it's a huge social experiment. So it's hard to say.
This thought about like if you think about like the stock market and Apple stock or something, big name, which Apple makes up 7% of the S&P, right? But I was just thinking about how there's so many, they have such loyal holders, old money, people with a lot of money that have been storing wealth in these top stocks for decades and decades. And it's very difficult to get these people out of those positions because they're so dedicated and loyal to them, right? The price of these like Amazon and Apple, they just go up. They're just going up, only up pretty much the whole time. In crypto, what's very clear is that there's no loyalty. Even in Bitcoin, it still drops 80%. There's no loyalty. I mean, there are hodlers, and in the end, the hodlers that hold over the longest number of years make the most money. They're the richest. The ones that hold over the most amount of years, right? But there's no loyalty in crypto. Everything drops 90%. Nobody's really serious about what they're shilling because it all drops 90%, And so I think that's the biggest problem is we don't have enough loyalty and people don't really take things serious enough. Like, again, like the example of Apple stock. There's a bunch of old money. When I say old money, I just mean like a lot. There's a lot of wealth being stored in these top stocks, and there's such high conviction in them that it's difficult to get people to not be invested in those stocks. Even if Apple's Twitter account wrote it's over, people still wouldn't sell. That's how loyal they are, right? So it's like in crypto we're lacking that. We're lacking a lot of loyalty and conviction. Actually, people only have temporary conviction.
So getting back to the charts, because we're going to be wrapping here in a little bit. We're wrapping a little earlier than we normally would on Mondays, because I have to do a Mario space in about 15 minutes. But looking at these charts, looking at Bitcoin with this massive wick to the downside, looking at the total chart here, massive wick, bulls eating this back up. The others chart also massive wick right into zones that we've had outlined on here for months. We see it across the board. A lot of these charts, we were looking at it in the office here. A lot of them look almost the same, with, let's go to like the 4 hour, just these massive sell-offs. That's Link, that's Ondo. Ondo, nice rebound up back into his zone. Arrow, massive sell-off coming back up. These are almost looking just identical with these sell-offs. Would you say, looking at this chart, for instance, like the total, let's go back out to the daily. Would this give you, I don't want to say courage, but leaning towards the bullishness of this being a washout trap before, like with the bulls eating this wick back up? Are you waiting for another day or two to see what plays out? Because a lot of times they say where it wicks, it will candlestick. Are you feeling like more like, no, this was the move. Now we get a reversal potentially back to the upside?
What I would say is I probably think that we're going to see some chop, and I was discussing it with my Patreons in the video I made earlier. But I would think if you look back at the August low, the capitulation from August, we retested it on some of the charts, or came back and made like a higher low in September, at the start of September. So I would think that probably March we might, let's say we might trend upwards for a few weeks and then kind of pull back into March, I would think. But I could be wrong, right? We could just end up ripping straight upward, but I would think more likely we're going to probably move up and then kind of come back down to people once again, and then maybe start to move out of that zone.
It's definitely been one of the more interesting cycles that we've been in. It's like supreme bullishness, but also with that, just like supreme fuckery in the charts,
Well, it's one of the most disjointed or disconnected cycles where you have Bitcoin itself. Just go to the Bitcoin chart here. Bitcoin is doing great. Despite yesterday's dip, we didn't break into a lower low. We just hit the range low, and now we're back in the middle of the range, and like it's fine. Go to the weekly chart. Bitcoin's still in a parabola. It looks good, right? Bitcoin looks like, if you just looked at this chart as if it wasn't Bitcoin, as if it was a random asset, you'd be like, well, this chart looks pretty good, right? Bitcoin's doing fine. But a lot of these low caps, below March levels. It's just terrible to deal with as a holder of any low cap coins and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a disjointed cycle. Bitcoin's doing great. Usually everything goes up together. Usually, right? Everything goes up together, everything goes down together. In this cycle, the higher risk stuff is just not getting as much play.
So if you had to guess, before we wrap out here, if you guys had to guess, do you think that the alts are still going to be suppressed in, for instance, through the end of February? Bitcoin, do you think we're going to be chopping sideways through February? Like, how do you see the market? If you had to guess, of course, this is just a guess, do you think we're going to be above where we're at now generally in the market? Or is Bitcoin only going to be up and alt still flat? Or what would you guess?
I would guess that by the end of February, you're saying? I would say that Bitcoin's probably going to be closer to the highs of this range, right? After a capitulation move like that, it was really the altcoins, but after the sentiment's that bad, usually you're not going to go back to those levels, right? It's like every time we go to this point, we don't get lower. We don't go lower than that. I would say that by the end of the month, Bitcoin will probably be, somewhere, at these range highs, maybe not exactly the all-time high, but something like up here, like 106, 107, or 105, whatever. Somewhere near the weekly candle body close zone, I'll just say that. So I guess that's what, 105,000. I'll just go with that. End of February, 105,000. So I don't think it'll be quite breaking out, but it won't be dumping. It'll just be sideways, right? Bitcoin has been sideways since November.
Yeah.
I assume that the altcoins, like the others, because they came down so much, they'll probably have a larger rebound than Bitcoin. Like they'll come up like more by the end of February, but they're still going to be really depressed. I mean, in relation to where they've been. The total 3 is, if you basically just excluded yesterday, the total 3 is at the weekly open. So it's like end of February, where will we be? Probably somewhere like in the, near the middle of this range, probably. I don't think we're going to see all that much development. Like we've had this huge capitulation move. Usually the market doesn't go lower after something like that, at least not for a while. So Matthew yesterday was saying the bottom is in, and then I copied him and I said the same thing on Twitter. But I actually do think that it's likely that the bottom is in for this range, at least for quite a long time. So you're muted.
I think you're muted.
Shakeout weekend. This is where it's the proof is in the pudding for what you're going to do in the markets. Anybody that sold at the bottom of that, I'm sorry. I don't tend to sell on massive sell-off days. You kind of got to pick the strategy more accordingly with being profitable, buying the fear and selling the greed, right? But I'm still excited about this year. I'm still excited about this quarter. There's still just nonstop news cycle stuff coming out for what's happening with the economy, with the tariffs, with the trade war. Then, of course, remember the digital asset stockpile, what that might mean if we're going to get a strategic Bitcoin reserve, what's going on with the state at the state level with reserves. Then also remember internationally, the sort of stacking race, which I would guess is probably kind of stealthily already starting to take place, people getting prepared. But I'm looking forward to the opportunity that the market is creating right now. I do want to shout out everybody that is tuned in here, both on X and on YouTube. Make sure you're giving Matthew a follow here at Matthew Highland _. And of course, our boy here, Mr. Kevin Svensson at Kevin Svensson _. But I think that's going to do it for today. You guys have any closing thoughts?
The end of the cycle will probably be better than the beginning if the Fed becomes less restrictive. So there's that.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's how it was in 2017 too. So the end of 2017, 2018 was the mania that everyone remembers from back then. So.
And just remember 2017, look at it, 38, 38, 33, 40, 40, 30. And when we're looking at the price of where we're at right now on Bitcoin, as scary as that felt, even from this top here, that was only a 16% move to the downside. So still very much more luxurious than it feels like with the sentiment in the market. But I appreciate you guys coming on. I love these Monday sessions we have together. Really do.
Yeah,
all right, see you later, Kelly.
I'm a bit sick, so I probably underperformed in this chat, but
no, it's all good. We love you, and everybody out there, again, make sure you're following Matthew and Kevin. Thank you all for being here. Hit that like button. We'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, don't trip, buy the dip. That's all we got, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Adios.
See you.